What's up, guys? It is Carly here, bringing you day number 10 of my 31 days of horror, and today we are going to be talking about a movie that I've had for quite some time now, and that is Bram Stoker's Dracula, or just Dracula. I think it seems like it goes by Bram Stoker's Dracula whenever you look it up on the internet, so we will go with that. But this is a version of Dracula from the year 1992. And I actually got this in Horror Pack, throwback to when I used to get that once a month. The Horror Pack, if you watch my old videos, that was basically a subscription where you would get 4 Blu-rays or 4 DVDs a month, and I used to do unboxings as well as a podcast with my friend Jerry, but we kind of got away from that. There's no problem with Horror Pack or anything like that, but I was just to save money, and we kind of got out of podcasting, so I decided to cancel it. But this was probably in one of my last boxes, and I forget, that was a long time ago now that I had Horror Pack, and I had put this one off for quite some time because it seemed like something I just would not really dig. But anyway, I mean, the story here is your basic Dracula tale where this man, he goes to meet with Dracula, and while he's there, Dracula becomes familiar with the dude's fiance, who is, of course, back wherever she is. I believe it would just be England, and so she's back home. So Dracula, he becomes kind of obsessed with her. She reminds him of his wife, so he imprisons her soon-to-be husband, and he goes out to try to find this girl and seduce her to, be his. So that is the story there. This is, I know there's a bunch of Dracula movies. I actually looked it up last night, and there's a tremendous amount of either Dracula adaptations or just different stories revolving around the character of Dracula, and in this one's case, it is the classic Dracula story. It is taking from the actual story source material, if you will, and I think it's pretty cool because, to be completely honest, like I said, I didn't think I was going to like this one, so I was kind of surprised by how into it I was because, of course, this is a period piece. It does take place in 1897, which is when, Dracula was written, so we all know I'm not a big fan of period pieces. I kind of just find them boring and hard to connect with because they're just obviously not of this time, and it's really hard to really relate to characters sometimes, but I didn't really have the problem with this, and I think it also helps because I watched the original Universal Monsters Dracula not too long ago, a few months ago actually, and like I said, this one is pretty much that same story. It just kind of does some, updated things and does its own little twists going on throughout the movie. So I thought it was kind of cool to watch this and compare it to that, that really old movie. I've never read the book Dracula or anything like that, so I'm not too familiar with the actual source material, but to compare this to the original Universal's monster movie, I thought it was pretty interesting. Like I said, it follows the same storyline. I think this movie has good acting. It's actually got a pretty solid cast. Winona Ryder's in it, Gary Oldman, Anthony Hopkins, and Keanu Reeves, so it's a pretty big name cast, and I didn't realize that going into this. I wasn't sure how popular this movie was, but I would assume it was probably pretty popular at the time based on that cast, but I thought it had some really nice shots in it, some really stunning imagery, just outside shots of the sky and the night and things like that. It really helped to build the atmosphere. The movie is a little over 2 hours long, and I feel like it didn't really have to be that long because I found that towards the end I kind of started to get a little bit out of it and a little bit bored with it, but it's alright. I mean, I think like I said, the story, it's very easily comparable. It's a pretty basic when you think about it. It doesn't add too much story-wise as much as it does just the way the characters are being, and it's like if you're watching the Universal's movie and it's just a more amped up version of that, because we all know that movie, it's a very old movie, so not a lot is necessarily going on in but With this one, you get a little more blood and interesting scenes that have to do with seduction and things like that kind of make it a little more intriguing to watch. I think the look of Dracula at the beginning is a little bit weird, but at the same time, it's also kind of creepy and just different and unique looking, so I do enjoy that. Like I said, the blood in it, there's a few scenes that are actually kind of, make me cringe a little bit, just involving blood and needles and, like, stuff like that. That's the thing with vampire movies. They actually do kind of get to me a little bit because I get a little bit squeamish when it comes to seeing blood and blood being taken from someone. It does kind of, just give me the creeps, and I think they do a good job of showing that in this movie. The effects in the movie are also pretty solid. Like I said, this came out in 1992, and I think they are pretty decent and they hold up today, because that was kind of a weird time period where some effects were like trash because they were trying to use new inventive things, and then some of them still work out today. I don't think they went overboard or anything like that, so it all looked pretty good. All in all, this movie is pretty atmospheric. I feel like I'm kind of rambling on with it, but it is a pretty atmospheric movie, has good acting, solid characters, and like I said, if you enjoy the classic just story of Dracula and you prefer that over these other ones that are kind of just doing their own thing, you probably will like this one and enjoy just watching kind of a different take, I guess, of the story a little bit going on. So, I would recommend it for that. And like I said, I kind of was surprised that I did enjoy this one and get into it like I did. The period piece setting, I think, while I don't really get interested in it a whole lot, I think it's just interesting to see how they dressed and the way they talked and just the way the, I guess, village or whatever you want to call it, they live in looks. So I do enjoy those aspects. It's just kind of, as characters, it's kind of hard for me to really relate to them, but I think it looks pretty good. I think they do a solid job of making this look like it's an older time. Back in the day, I guess you could say, 1800s, so they do a good job with that. Overall, solid movie. I do recommend it to people who enjoy stories like this, so I give this one an 8 out of 10. So yeah, thank you guys once again for joining me for day number 10 of my 31 days of horror, and as always, I will see you tomorrow for day 11.